Welcome back to The Manual, a podcast where we talk about the stuff most men's podcasts are too afraid to touch. Today's episode is going to be wild, raw, and real. What's up, y'all? We are kicking things off with an elephant literally walking into a store in Thailand, because today we're talking all about the elephant in the room. Why? Because I just said it. We're talking about stuff that most other people don't want to talk about, wrestling in our own minds and hearts with what is true. Where's the gold here? And hopefully help you to be able to press the boundary of understanding of how we integrate ourselves, body, mind, and spirit into integrated manhood. So we're covering a lot of things today. Nick just came on board full-time with the Freedom Group as of this week. My son finishes his cancer treatment today. We're going to talk about what we've learned in healing and talk about neuroplasticity and a bunch of other topics like frequency and vibration. Nick, what's your frequency and vibration?
We're touching
like today?
things, vibrations, all of it. Yeah, we're going to Thailand.
Beautiful. Yep. So I want to share this first because this is just good stuff. I think it's also appropriate because the name of this person is Kanako Porn. Shribun.
That's actually his name. Kanako
Yeah.
Porn.
If you ever find yourself getting caught with an elephant in your
What would you do?
your brick and mortar, apparently you're supposed to hit it on the butt.
Take out a BB gun? I was just out in Estes Park, Colorado, and the owners sent pictures saying black bears can get in there. So, like, just bang pots and pans and it'll leave. That's insane.
No way.
What would you do if an elephant walked into your... Yeah, apparently black bears aren't, quote, not that dangerous, but I don't want to go wrestling one.
Some places should have warning signs about starting brick and mortars. Like, listen, real risk, open door policy for even the elephants.
All the overhead
I don't know what I would do
you
in
don't
that
account
situation.
for.
Yeah. No, really my thought when I first watched that video is that's what I look like trying to move my way through Costco on a busy Saturday morning with my 3 kids. Like, I'm the elephant. Just
real.
Backing my way up with some giant thing that I didn't plan on purchasing. Gotta go.
And then if you don't go, if you go too early, they don't have the free samples set up yet, and my kids will never let me not hear that again. It's every time, Dad, remember 100%. We can't go too early. They don't have the free samples. And I said, well, listen, girls, I got to go. My kids have
not figured out the timing of that sort of thing. It's just it's there or it's not there. Maybe your kids are of higher intelligence than mine.
Well,
or I haven't let them in on that secret. I literally went to Costco, pulled into an empty parking lot at 9:45 the other week, and was like, shoot, it doesn't open for, I think it was like 9:40. It's like 20 minutes. Okay, we're just going to sit here for 20 minutes, kids. And so I had all 3, this past week, and I had all 3 kids in the car.
Was that during the week?
During the number of retired adults and moms with young children that were there at 9:50, lined up almost around the block to shop at Costco.
Yep.
I was like, what? Is this a real? This happens every day. I couldn't believe it.
What a time to be alive, man.
Yeah, I could not believe it. I honestly only thought that sort of thing happened on Black Friday, but apparently Black Friday and every day a Costco opens, this is a reality. And it was like a month. I think it was this past Monday, wasn't it? I think it was this past Monday. It was Monday. It was a Monday morning, like.
Because I think they're 9 on Saturdays. We need to have a podcast solely dedicated to Costco versus Sam's. I mean, obviously Costco would destroy Sam's, but there's a couple arguments for Sam's I've heard.
Really?
About what they carry.
I don't know that I've ever consciously thought about Sam's having any redeemable value. I also I'm a sold out, diehard Aldi guy. So anytime I walk out of a store, I walk out of Costco sad because of how much money I spent with how little I feel like I'm getting. The only place I routinely walk out of feeling elated and alive is Aldi. So I'd probably just
because of the financial burden is light.
I just get exactly what I want. It's a small store. It's perfectly laid out.
You know exactly where it is.
Go through the
wherever
Aldi
you
Finds aisle and just get a massive hit of dopamine. Like, wait, they have
100%. Yeah.
They have what flavor of what?
I didn't know I needed that. Now I need that.
All these socks. Yeah. So I just bought we just bought this, not an inflatable, but this like foam turtle for a pool. There was a starfish and a turtle. And so my daughter's out in the backyard in our pool riding this turtle around with a paddle on Monday afternoon that we picked up at Aldi. And I was like, where else can you get a turtle for like $12? This thing should be at least 30, even on Amazon. So
let's see if it'll last through the summer. The over under 100 days.
On the number of times that she uses the turtle?
Well,
or whether
days,
or not
I was going to say it survives.
Oh,
yeah.
It's going all the way. This is why I don't buy inflatable things, is because that over-under is like less than a week.
You
mentioned
joined
the Freedom Group full-time.
Yeah.
This past week, speaking to this past week.
I'm all
What's
in,
it been
man.
like?
This is June 5th at the time of recording. This is Thursday, so day 4. It's good, man. There's too much freedom. So basically, I haven't been working. I've just been scrolling the gram all day long, and just wasting my days away. It feels great.
Right.
No accountability.
Yeah.
No, it's been awesome.
That's the first
man.
I'm hearing about this, folks. So yeah, you guys feel as uncomfortable as I do in this moment, trying to figure out, is he being honest?
So
is he not being honest? Is he trying to tell me what's true?
Right. Is this a sneak peek? So there's the awesome burden of entrepreneurial life is there's so much to do and so many fish to fry and so many opportunities and things you could pursue. And I got to do one thing at a time and stick to that. Yep. And not try to do everything in one day. There's the working in the business and there's the working on the business. There's doing the work. Totally. There's, meeting with the clients. There's doing the group stuff. There's meeting with supporters to, to support it. And which is that's kind of working on the business. And there's, so I'm realizing that how do you shut the brain off at the end of the day is maybe one battle I have just to be present with my family. But it's but I'm also able to, Teresa had to go to get some blood work today. So at 9 a.m. she had to. And so I'm able to be home, take the kids for an hour. There's just the flexibility is awesome. I'm loving it. Yeah. So I'm all in, man. I'm excited. How do we, table some dreams, put them on the back burner, not on the shelf, but to simmer and to do what we can do. What are the rocks we got to focus on right now? So it's awesome, man. I'm excited.
I love it. Sounds like you don't have enough to do. That's all I'm hearing from this conversation.
Yeah.
Give me more to do.
Come
on. That's right.
You
mentioned two things. One, you brought up blood work, which makes me think, well, I just actually got my blood work results yesterday, and my testosterone is higher than yours, which should be a surprise to nobody. Through the roof, baby.
Okay.
It's not through the roof. It's like 380, but I'm not below 300.
That's low.
So
no. So here's the thing.
I know it is low.
I'm 357. So here's the exact numbers. I'm 357 nanograms per deciliter, which is low.
Okay.
That's total. That's total. The free testosterone is, quote, significantly below. And then not only that, that's what's available in the blood. That's like the stuff you want to, like what's free. And then not only that, my SHBG, and you and I have talked about this, my sex hormone binding globulin, which that binds the free testosterone, is super high. So even what's available is freaking, that's bound up and is locked up by this freaking SHBG goblin or whatever guy.
Yep,
so
that's
right.
The goblins,
crazy. So you're in the 300s too, man. Okay, so dude, I was talking to Packard.
My goblins are good. My goblins are rock solid. My free
testosterone
is pretty decent. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Interesting.
I'm gonna we'll put all the results up here at some point someday for everybody to look at and talk way more in depth. I haven't actually seen them. I just talked to my doctor on the phone yesterday while I was hanging out in the hospital, and he gave me my results, and I was happy-ish. The only thing he said I'm deficient in, which we can talk about that for a minute, but I've been spending a fair amount of time for the last 8 months in a hospital room under fluorescent light. He said my vitamin D is not dangerously low, but pretty surprisingly low. And I was like, no shit, Sherlock.
Not uncommon.
I've been sitting inside. It's Minnesota. Sun just came out first time this year.
Yeah.
And I've been locked up.
Yep, totally. So, I mean, this is, for decades, they said that our testosterone has been dropping, and to get the numbers in front of you is really helpful. And I'd just be interested to, even if you guys are listening to this, it's worth going to get your blood work done and just to get the numbers. And then, okay, then what are we going to do? So let's talk.
Yeah. Yeah, we should put a link to the show notes. Nick actually gave me the whole list of everything I should ask for when I went to my annual physical. So I did exactly what he did, and it was super fascinating. I mean, it's great to be able to get sort of a barometer on your liver function, kidneys, immune system, different key components of what total internal health actually looks like. So recommend it. We can put a blog post up and then tag it in the bottom of this page, or in the show notes rather, and then you can go there and do that for yourself. Get the information. Joe, and then
yeah, we'll do that. You mentioned the last 8 months. The last 8 months you've been in the hospital. Today is a big day. Today is the last day of treatment for chemo for Zay. So tell us about that. How's he doing? How are you doing? What are you guys carrying? What surprised you about the journey? What have you learned?
Well, that's a loaded question, more than we probably have time to fully unpack, but I'm grateful to be able to start. I mean, I'm feeling super hopeful, joyful, sort of renewed spirit, excited about the path ahead. I mean, the reality so if you haven't heard, my son last September, I think it was, got diagnosed with a brain tumor. The next day had 2 major surgeries, 6 weeks of radiation at the beginning of 2025. And then we've been going through 4 months of chemotherapy. So basically inpatient every month, and then recovering the rest of the month, and then going back in. And there have been a number of extra hospital stints. All of that put together, I mean, this season, the chemo has been the most challenging for me mentally, and just trying to finish the race well, trying to learn how to live well, a routine at home, and then go sit in a hospital for 4 days. And just like, that's been super challenging for me, not having any environmental sort of supports, just to be there 24/7. I found it really hard to sleep well, to eat right, to exercise. Like, all that stuff has been, I mean, I don't think I showed up to that sort of stuff super well. And so that's been interesting for me to be aware of, like, okay, what does need to be environmental, as well as where am I at personally, has been a great challenge. And then the mental side of it is just like, when we talk about so much about reframing and the importance of mindset in craving and recovering from a craving addicted brain. And I've come to appreciate that in this 8 months so much, is your environmental circumstances can be identical. But if you wake up at the beginning of the day and say, today is going to be a good day, your brain looks for good things. And if you wake up at the beginning of the day dreading the experiences you're going to have to undertake, resisting
100%.
them, not wanting to go through what's required, being resentful, being angry, that compounds throughout the day. And the events of the day, which could be identical, they all suck. It's all really hard. And so there were a lot of experiences, like me experiencing that real time of like, oh, this is what it feels like to magnify hard by the way that I approach a hard thing, and to experience the opposite. This is what it feels like to be able to be in a positive frame of mind, where I want the friction, the discomfort, the pain of what I'm encountering, and how, I don't want to say easy it is to go through, but how much easier it is to go through that thing because I'm right for it. I want it. I'm committed to it. So that's been a really interesting experiential exercise to live, and just deepening appreciation for, of what that actually looks like playing out in real time in my life, going through what's been the hardest thing for us, my wife and I, our family, to carry up until this point of our life. And then just to see the way that he has resiliently fought for himself, been in the experience himself, continue to smile, continue to be himself. You haven't seen this. We went to a Top Golf event that an organization near us put on Monday. So this is right before the end of his treatment. But he just seen the way that he has embraced this new experience and the challenge. This is him trying to figure out how to swing something like a golf
Was he
club.
a lefty?
And you can see the unsteadiness that he has. But what I saw in watching him do this is his perseverance. He turns back right here, looks at me, smiles. I forget what he said in that moment, but something like, "I'm going to try again." And just thinking what it's like as a 6-year-old boy trying to figure out how to like come into your own, how to age, and then to have this thing thrown at you that really is a real disability that's destabilized. And then to watch him swing and knock it out of the park and, kind of get the result, like the achievement reward that Top Golf gives you when you hit the ball and you watch the angry bird fly into, the shelf of pigs or whatever, and it knocks down, and to see the smile on his face. So stuff like that along the way. And we're going to talk later about Michael Easter and what he talks about in his book Comfort Crisis, but like learning to appreciate the simple things like health, like feeling okay. Being okay when you wake up in the morning, and drawing our attention to that is like, I feel well today, right? Oftentimes we just ignore that until we don't, and then we hate that we don't, right? So learning to appreciate the small things, to not take them for granted, to be available to them, and to go after it. I'm actually going to play that right now because I want to get your thoughts on this. This is a book that you're reading right now, Nick. So kind of want to hear what you're experiencing. And going through this, I was reminded of a clip that Louis C.K. talks about, sort of when we adjust to a new way of living as humans, and we instantly become, we have an expectation that it's going to look like that, it's going to be that easy. And so I want to get your thoughts on what Michael Easter says here.
So good.
Give me your knee-jerk reaction to what he just shared.
We lower our definition of what we consider a problem, he said. When we limit any discomfort and we're living in the most comfortable lifestyle way we've ever lived, our brain will search for other things that become problems. Like, we are living in the most comfortable world ever, and mental health is an all-time high. Why is that? Because self-chosen discomforts, acute discomforts or pain, we're not choosing those. And so all sorts of other stuff, like the bar for our ability to experience and to choose. Like, I love what you were saying about being in the hospital and just walking through with your son, is the circumstances didn't change, but when you shifted your mindset to actually choose to embrace it, that completely shifted your ability to experience. As you say, pain is the path, discomfort is my teacher. What is it teaching? What is the path? What can I learn from this? And so when we are just floating through and everything's amazing, as Louis C.K. says, everything's amazing and nobody's happy, you know?
Yeah.
What stands out for you?
You brought up Louis C.K., so I just think back to his comedy sketch about this exact same scene. As you're on a plane, it's like guys grumbling about it, about the taxiing taking 15 minutes, and it's like, bro, you are about to experience the miracle of flight.
You non-contributing zero.
Yeah, you are contributing zero. It's like we have lost our ability to wonder.
Yeah.
We have lost our ability. I mean, this is what happens with something like porn addiction or other addictions. Is our brain loses capacity to find pleasure in simpler things, in the subtle beauty all around us. Right, nature stops being alive and vibrant. It becomes dull and unnoticeable. Right, and I've experienced that difference in my own brain, in my own mind. When I the more time I spend training my brain to need distraction to be able to derive pleasure from versus presence. And that's one of the things that I thought of as like the antidote to that kind of living, getting caught up in distraction or getting caught up in that sort of dullness to miracles all around us. For me, hasn't so much been like reminding myself of that, like, oh, you should be grateful for this, which I think is like, a way that we sort of, as Christians, try to like spiritually bypass or like demand that of ourselves. Like you should be more grateful. It's like, well, that's helping.
Right.
You don't sound very grateful as you demand that of me or yourself.
Yeah.
The way that I found myself being able to actually behold that and experience that at a sufficiently deep level is to practice presence, right? To like slow down, to pause, to stop, and just soak it in. Like that's the first step of noticing beauty, is to not try and force myself through conscious thought, like, well, I should want to behold beauty. It's if I pause long enough, the awareness of the beautiful starts to simmer to the surface, right? But I'm so conditioned to run, to be getting somewhere, to be going to the next place, to achieve more. And that's what I heard in him talking about, is like everything he had to do there not only took an extreme level of effort to accomplish, but there was also so much open space. What he talked about, like being bored.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think about so much of, again, what we help guys do early in our coaching process is to learn how to practice being present, to learn how to be bored. Some of the most transformational moments of a guy talking about is like, yeah, I went on a walk the other day when I got home from work, rather than being spun up into family life. And I like went and sat down in the middle of a field and was totally present. And it's been years since I felt that way.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's trying to do it all right, who's trying to do all the stuff. And he's so disconnected from that experience. The other thing I think of is what you just said about choosing acute discomfort. Is other guys I've heard talk about the most transformational moments for them is like when we've done our 48 or 72 hour fasts. And like, that was the moment that this changed for me.
Dude, it's crazy
when I was
how
in
many
that
guys
experience.
Talk about how like that was the thing.
Yeah. I had a guy tell me, I asked him some question, relatively open-ended question when we were hanging out last week. He's in my Monday morning group right now, and he was saying, I asked him like, what are you experiencing? Where are you experiencing growth right now in your life? And he pointed back, like, when things started to change for me is when I started to cold plunge. And I was kind of caught off guard. I was like not expecting him to say that, but it was something that he was invited into through being around all this stuff that we're doing about. We don't tell guys that they have to do that, but we invite them to do things like that. And he talked about exactly what you just talked about, is like shocked him into the present moment, forced him to start slowing down, and it started to teach him that he can actually stay in things that are painful for him.
Yeah, that's right.
And to be able to experience that as a man is insanely potent and powerful. And I think we don't realize how big of an effect it has when we start to notice that fraying in our life, that I don't have the capacity to stay in the hard. Well, the next time a hard thing comes, if that's my frame of mind or my reasoning about my ability to, my capacity to be able to hold or stay in that hard thing, don't be surprised if you are out before the hard thing even starts, before the discomfort actually begins.
Yeah, it's crazy. And in that book, he talks about going to Alaska, and he's sitting there hunting for caribou, but for days they're not seeing anything. And he says, you literally hear your heart beat and your stomach churn. Like you're hearing things that you didn't, you could never hear. You could never hear before. Yep. In this level of boredom and this ability to almost be forced to enter into it. So we're living in this world that we have to manufacture our discomforts. Like we have to go on these trips where usually it used to be that you just have to survive and forage and fend for yourself. That was just the reality a couple hundred years ago. Right. Now we have to manufacture it and pay a bunch of money to go do it. But the acronym that we use in our coaching program is BLASTED: bored, lonely, angry or anxious, sad or stressed, tired, empty, disconnected. And usually that covers pretty much every emotion that guys typically experience that's underneath the surface. When you pull back the layers of sexually acting out and separate it from discomfort, like, oh yeah, I'm actually bored. Okay. So what can boredom teach me? If I can sit in that space, if I can enter into that space, only then can I start experiencing these things that I didn't even know existed before. Tap into the wonder available. And it is difficult, but just because we say that we only act on these negative emotions that we're unwilling to experience. So if I'm unwilling to feel boredom, and then it's really cool when you learn the science behind, the brain science behind the power of boredom, that the same parts of your brain that are responsible for creativity, for the creative function of your upper cortex, that same brain, that same part of your brain, that part of your brain is only activated when you become bored or when you create space, when you're just open. You open up. It's just powerful.
Yeah. A really important mentor in my life. He was a deacon on the south side of the cities here in the Twin Cities, and I remember him talking about the importance of liminal space, the space that we choose to make between trigger and response. And he used to use that phrase all the time, and it didn't really click with me what he was getting at or what that meant, because it was a new term to me. But and I mean, this is the case for so much information. It's like you just don't get it until you experience it. Until you experience a month with nothing, a period of time where you notice your heart starting to beat or your thoughts slowing down, right? You don't know what you don't know until you know something different. You experience something different. Like, oh, that's what it feels like to be present. That's what it feels like to stop. And so I want to use that as a sort of a way of segueing into another clip that I found or came across recently that I thought sort of is like, I mean, it's a hallmark for our core belief about capacity for change, and our personal conviction around the idea that our fundamental identity is not as an addict, because your brain has the capacity to change, to rewire, to be made new. That is as much a neurological fact as it is a spiritual fact, that we can be made new. And what does it look like to actually do that and accomplish that when it comes to things like triggers and responses, the way that we're wired? So I want to play this clip by Dr. Daniel Amen, a neuroscientist, psychiatrist, on your brain's capacity to rewire. All right, there's a couple things there that I love. One of the things is the simple fact of what he says on the front end. The biggest advance that we have made in neuroscience, and I was a neuroscience major. Most of the conclusions of our classes back in college were, we don't know the answer to that yet. Right. Yeah. So it is an incredibly emerging field, about 20 years old. And so he's basically the summary of the whole time that we have had to be able to study the brain on a sufficient level in order to make hypotheses and come to real defining conclusions, or what feels like the beginning of a conclusion around whatever we're testing or studying, is that the brain can change. The other thing I love that he talks about is when he talks about your capacity that brain cells don't die or don't age. It's blood
that's
flow
crazy.
to the brain cells.
I've never heard that.
Wild. I mean, this is what you're studying when you look at an fMRI. It is imaging blood oxygen to different parts of the brain. So when you see a part of the brain light up, you're not looking at like electrical light up. You are looking at the amount of oxygen in that area of the brain, which is telling you that those neurons in that area are consuming oxygen and drawing oxygen to that location, and thus those neurons in that area are becoming activated. So that's what you're looking at when you look at an fMRI, which is the thing that's allowed us to be able to start studying the brain. But it's the thing that I love when he talks about the conclusion is like, this is when we talk about integration, body, mind, and spirit, he talks about exercise, and then immediately goes to ginkgo, right? He's talking about it's important to move your body, increases blood flow in your brain, and also a supplementation, a plant that if you don't have these two things, start to restrict blood flow and then impact your brain's capacity to be able to rewire. or to hold new information, which if your brain can't hold it, the rest of your body can't do it. And so there's this inseparable link. You say all the time, Nick, that we are not disembodied spirits, right? That you can't just pray your brain into a new way of experiencing reality. You have to approach it body, mind, and spirit, which complicates things to a degree, which is part of the reason we don't like it. It's just like, well, is it something that I need to supplement physically, that I need to ingest? Is it something that I need to remove from my diet? Is it I need to exercise more? Do I need to change the way that I think? Do I need to pray a different way? Am I not praying enough? Am I praying too much? Right? And so it starts to get unnecessarily complicated. But because we don't have a tool to be able to look at and understand simply like what's happening, and then what are the possible reasons for why that's happening? Is it a body issue? Is it a mind issue? Is it a spirit issue? And then what tool do I deploy to it as a result of that? And likely some combination of the three. So I just appreciated that his solution was a list of largely dietary and exercise reasons of why blood flow gets restricted and then has problematic results on our brain's capacity to be able to rewire.
Yeah. Yeah. And likely, you said likely a combination of all of them. So like, what is it, like this process of reintegration? I like to think of it as like becoming fully human. We talk about in phase 2 that the fractures that happened at the fall, whatever that looked like, this separation. It was a separation, a fracture of us and the spiritual, between us and God, between us and the source of life, between us and each other relationally, socially, between us and ourselves, right, psychologically, and then between us and creation. So how I'm even thinking of this book called Outliers, the opening of Malcolm Gladwell's book. He studies this group of people somewhere in Philadelphia, I think, but basically it's this group from Italy, and they basically build little Italy in this place in Pennsylvania, and their diet's not that great. They smoke. So they're studying why did 0 of them ever have heart disease. This is a little different than what we're talking about, but they discovered it's because of their relational connection. They spend evenings on their front porch with each other. They're connected. Okay, so how do we reintegrate all of it together? Let's throw, like as we're talking about, testosterone at the beginning. Like I want to figure out my stress levels. Okay, am I breathing? Am I sleeping well? Am I getting? And then again, we manufacture everything. So now we have red light therapy, everything inside of our house. But actually, what if I went and did the sun stare for a little bit and connected with creation? Or I have a grounding mat in my bed, so I can, because I'm wearing rubber shoes all day. But what if I went and stood in the grass and start to rewire my central nervous system, right? And start to get the energy, and this sounds crazy, but there's an electromagnetic field flowing through the earth. And I have one flowing through me, but when I get reconnected and get reintegrated with myself, with creation, with God, the brain starts to change.
Yep.
We can rewire and renew our whole person and become fully human and become fully alive and start tapping into that abundant life that Jesus promised, not as disembodied spirits, but as incarnate human and fleshed divine images of God in human nature.
Yep. Yeah, and it's a process of testing, right? It's answering the question, what do I need? I mean, this is fundamentally the question that leads to one of the most important tools that we help guys build in our process, which is the connection plan or the sobriety plan, which includes what are my habits, right? Which takes into account body, mind, spirit. What relationships do I need in my life? What boundaries do I need in my life? What mindsets need to become non-negotiable? What do I need to tell myself, right? We'll show it in a different episode, but Dr. Daniel Amen has another clip where he talks about the importance of a positive mindset. What you look for grows, right?
Right.
There's what we pay attention to expands. If you wake up at the beginning of the day, and this is his suggestion, a guy who went to school for 70 years, is like has a doctor to show for it, and his one of his main sort of like, how do you live a fulfilled whole life? How do you rewire your brain? How do you get to ultimate? One of his main suggestions is wake up at the beginning of the day and say, today's going to be a good day. You train your brain to go into the day looking for the good. And if you do that, your brain all of a sudden subconsciously, without you needing to do that over and over and over again, starts to look for the good, and the good expands.
Totally.
Right? And
totally.
In this clip, he's asked, like, what gets asked all the time, like, do you believe in new age manifesting? He's like, well, no, not exactly. By that, I mean, I don't just tell myself I'm going to be a millionaire, which predestines me to become a millionaire.
Right.
But I do tell my brain what to look for, and that matters. So I think that's incredibly powerful and is an important reminder to all of us is what you tell yourself matters. At the beginning of my own recovery journey, I thought I was a pretty optimistic person until I started slowing down and paying attention to my thought life, especially in the presence of craving or discomfort. I was not a positive person in those moments. I fed myself a lot of chumming the water to get myself to increase my ability to react or to respond reactively because of the negative appraisals I made of those experiences. And choosing to do the opposite has a massively important effect on your brain's capacity to rewire and to meet the things that we're not so proud of that we do today, to changing those outcomes to something different. It has a massively profound effect on our capacity to be able to do that. As we wrap today, I'm curious for those listening who are curious themselves about what's coming up on our calendar, either things that we're doing in person or different opportunities that are coming up. So just want to run through a couple of those things. And we talked about this adventure, choosing to go into the wilderness, to pause, to remove ourselves. Awesome opportunity coming up in a month. July 7th through the 11th, I'm pretty sure. I think I got those dates down. Our outbound trip. Coach Chris is taking a group of guys into the wilderness to do exactly that, to get alone with your thoughts. And when you're flying out of Denver, you'll have that same exact experience that Michael just talked about. He had after a month. You don't need to go to Alaska to a month, I don't think, to be able to get that. So looking forward to that coming up next month. We have another group that's about to launch. So if porn addiction or craving is a problem in your life and you're fed up with it and you're ready to start a new way of living, you can certainly go to our website, freedomgroup.co, and click the link to talk to Nick or I and figure out if that's the right process for you to be able to deal with it once and for all in your life. And Nick, speak to it for a minute. We're going to have a podcast coming out soon to go more in depth about a brand new thing that we're launching, but tease up the Kingmakers community.
Yeah, one of the things we notice in our own lives and just this morning, actually yesterday morning, I had a group call, and a lot of the guys, a lot of the what's underlying this addiction is a lack of a sense of purpose and a lack of momentum and like, what am I doing with my life, and a lack of direction. And we say from the beginning of the craving free training system, we say it's not that porn is not the problem. Porn is the solution to your problem. It doesn't work. It's a quick Band-Aid, but so what's the goal? The goal is not just freedom. The goal is not just to stop something. We say you shouldn't have a goal that a dead person can accomplish. Okay, so stop acting out, stop looking at porn. That's great, but freedom to what end? We say, biblically speaking, is to reign as a king. What does that mean? The Father wants to confer on you a kingdom, and that's both internal and external. What we don't want and what we don't need is a bunch of like platform building, self-promoting men going out there and building something externally without taking care of the inside work. So it's a both thing. It's an inside job and it's an outside job. So we want to create a community of men who know that they're made for more and maybe have written up mission statements and vision statements, but actually they just stay on the wall or they stay on the shelf, and it doesn't become something that they look at daily. And so we want to come with guys and get practical of how have they been created, what are the desires and dreams in their hearts, and actually, so many guys underestimate what they can do. Or overestimate what they can do in a day or a week or a month, but like, what could you do in a year if you surround yourself by the right guys and start pulling the right levers and start incrementally moving forward with your life and saying, hey, maybe I actually want to make a career change or want to implement something in my life. We want to create a space for you. So that's going to be rolling out here really soon. So be on the lookout for that.
We're going to have a page that's about to launch where you can go and learn more information. The idea there is to help guys build an operating system for their life and then have the accountability, the connection, new information, inspiration, and then dedication to the daily practice of getting there together, not just on your own, but together in what you've been uniquely called to, supported by a community, guys, to be able to have that all together in one space to help you get there. So definitely check out more of that for more information. Then the only other thing to really call out is we've seen as more guys have reached out that oftentimes, but not oftentimes, but sometimes the coaching process in the group context that we currently have isn't the right fit for guys. And as that sort of has emerged, we found that we've been doing a lot more individual coaching. So just to call that out publicly, we don't broadcast it. We don't have that really placed anywhere. But if you've looked at sort of what we offered, I mean, we have guys that, have called us individually because they know us personally or reached out. And as we go through the process, it's like, I don't actually think it's not the right time. Maybe it's too early in where you're at.
Or I don't struggle with porn, but I need some of these mindset things that you guys are talking about in my own life. And they're generic muscles that we can flex in every area of our life. I was just talking with a guy 2 days ago. He's like, actually, would what you offer still benefit me? I'm like, dude, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so just to call that out, publicly here, since we don't really on our website, if you've been around our stuff a little bit, if there's some area of your life, like Nick just said, that you could use the support, coaching, I mean, it's certainly something that we could offer. We give once you sign up for Discovery Call, we give you a little form to fill out, and you can put that information there so we know kind of what you're going after in your own life and how we can support you in helping you get there, either to removing a pain point or getting to some dream outcome in your life. So certainly don't hesitate to reach out if that's you. Anything else on your end before we hop off for today, Nick?
Nope. I'm excited. I'm heading right now to go run my only in-person group with a group of badass priests who were like, hey, we got to live free and live in the light, and pray for our priests, y'all. It's gnarly. It's people don't just come to them sharing about how awesome all their life is. It's a lot of fires to put out, and so excited for that. But yeah, there's
so much discomfort and challenge in that life, right? It's part of the sacrifice of laying down your life so that others can live, and it's uncomfortable, and it's a real testament, but also a test to can you live that life and stay in the hard, especially when oftentimes there's isolation, loneliness. A lot of those experiences you talked about. So that's awesome. And I know you speak to it a ton in our individual time together, Nick, about what that means to you, what you see happening there. Looking forward to be able to share more of that in a upcoming podcast as we talk about leadership and the throes of being exposed by the world versus being exposed by God in the dark. So we'll talk about that down the road. Y'all, thanks so much for hanging out with us today, whether it was about elephants, Dr. Amen and the capacity to rewire your brain and the encouragement there, or the reality of comfort and your need to get uncomfortable, to choose to slow down, to stop. We want you to know that your brain can change. You can experience rewiring. You can be free. And we want you to come with us as we aim in our own lives to become more free every single day. Your story can change, your future isn't fixed, and you don't have to do it alone. You can check the show notes for all the clips we've referenced today. And if you want to be part of a community of men doing the work, hit up thefreedomgroup.co. We'll put that link down below, and we'll see you next week on The Manual.